Well, welcome everyone to our nature healing session where we are going to talk about frogs and toads. And I mentioned in the email that I sent out that the inspiration for this topic came from sort of just like an act. I didn't even think about it. I was walking out the door dressed up as Baba Yaga. Ben was dressed up as my house with the chicken feet. And I threw a head of garlic in one pocket and I threw this frog in another. And here they are. And we know where the garlic inspiration. Ah, Swan brought her frog. Yay. We know where the garlic inspiration came from. Thank you, Elizabeth. Our master mistress herb of crossroads. But the frog, I wasn't really sure. So now I know, and I'll share that all with you all. Or at least I think I know. Maybe there's more meanings that will come up. So here, let's see. Okay. Bear with me for a moment as I make sure the part of the screen encompasses my whole presentation. There we go. Okay, so today we're going to talk about frogs and toads. And we've talked about frog song, so we went pretty deep into that aspect. Thank you, Alex. Um, but I'm going to take a little bit of a different, all of these topics we could do 100 different paths through them. So it's really fascinating to me, especially as we've, deepen into this nature healing, how when topics come back up, there's a whole new inspiration, a whole new theme, and each thread, each road is just as rich as the other. So it's just, we're talking about frogs and toads today, but the next time we talk about them, it'll be a different focus. So this is a road sign that I saw in my neighborhood. I thought it was really cute. Frog parking only, all others will be towed. So initially I was just going to talk about frogs, but I realized they're kind of one and the same. So all toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. Um, so, all right, let's deepen into our Mingjue practice before we get too much further. So we can receive this beautiful information from our Mingjue consciousness, which makes everything so much more bright and vivid. So coming to a comfortable seated position with feet on the ground and head raised up to the heavens. Just breathing into your body, just noticing what is in this moment, accepting all of it. It is all perfect just the way it is. And allow these words to wash over you. In fact, allow the words to filter through the pores of your skin. So we'll practice being frogs and toads right from the beginning, because everything filters right through their skin, and they actually breathe through their skin too. So allow this good information to permeate through you. Head expands into the sky, feet into the earth. Body is relaxed, mind expands out. Be respectful, quiet inside. The mind is clear, the appearance is humble. The mind is still. The mind expands out to the vast void. Illuminate deep inside. The whole body is harmonized with chi, harmonized with chi. Taking a few last breaths, letting those words wash over you. And then when you're ready, opening your eyes to stare at this cute guy, a toad. and we'll move on. So we'll start with the science side of things and allow it to lead us directly into the mythic, as always. So frogs and toads are in the same order, and this anura means without tail. There are over 7,000 species. They're cold-blooded, they are amphibians, and they have 4 limbs. They have very, very large eyes. They have external eardrums, and the males especially have very extensive vocal abilities. I'll note that their eyes have nearly 360-degree vision also, so they can see everything. Another important feature of frogs and toads, as I alluded to earlier, is that they have very permeable skin. So they can actually breathe partly through their skin, and their skin absorbs both oxygen and water directly. And this feature of frogs and toads makes them very, very sensitive to their environment. They are like living water quality testers, but they also can feel everything's so vivid, temperature changes, changes in the weather, and I'm sure much deeper things they can sense very vividly, like changes in energy patterns and consciousness, etc. But they're very sensitive to any toxins, of course, like we would be breathing things in, right? When we breathe things in, it goes directly into our lungs, and that's basically a direct link to our bloodstream. So what we breathe in, we receive so much more intimately, we'll say, than things that are on our skin, which isn't really like frog skin. But imagine your whole skin, your whole body being like lungs. So everything that touches your skin goes directly into your bloodstream. So they're very, very intimate with their environment. Of course, they go through a amazing metamorphosis process from egg to tadpole to adult. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. I was curious myself to understand the difference between frogs and toads. So again, like I said, all toads are frogs. They're all in the same order. It's just toads are in one specific family within the frog world. So all toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. And basically the distinguishing factor is that they have slightly different adaptations. They're very similar animals. So in general, frogs have smooth, moist skin, and they need to stay wet. So they're always very close to water and wet places. Frogs have long, powerful legs. They can leap very far, some up to 20 times their body length. And frogs are often green or brightly colored. Toads have dry, bumpy, kind of warty looking skin. Those bumps are actually glands. And they have shorter legs and they prefer walking or short hops, but they don't jump very far. They're more terrestrial species, so they often lay their eggs in water places, but they often live on the more land when they're adults. They can survive for a lot longer away from water. And toads are usually brown or earth-toned, and they often live in the earth. So rather than being super watery creatures, they're actually more earthly, more chthonic, like underworld earth creatures. And that will be important when we get more into myth. And toads also have these prominent, they're called parotoid glands behind their eyes. And so those glands famously secrete toxins, psychoactive toxins, and they're at its most simplest form, a defense mechanism, but we'll talk a little bit later about some of the other meanings and applications of these special toxins that toads secrete. Frogs also they can secrete toxins from their skin. but they don't have those special glands like toads do. So frogs and toads live in every continent except Antarctica, which makes sense. And there are about 100 species in the United States. Most of them are in the southeast, which makes sense. That's where it's really wet. And we have several major families of frogs in the United States, including tree frogs is one family with their sticky toe pads that can climb anywhere. Um, we have true frogs that are aquatic and powerful jumpers. And then we have a family known as true toads that are more terrestrial with the warty skin. And our largest frog is the American bullfrog. I always thought they were toads, but of course they're not. They're frogs. And we also have the spring peeper. I think that's mostly on the East Coast. We don't have them where I live. That has its incredible loud song in the spring. We have a frog called the wood frog that can survive being frozen solid in winter. That's crazy. And then we have the American toad, which, again, not where I live, but maybe where some of you live, is a common backyard visitor. So these pictures here are of a spring peeper and or the American toad. And I'll just say that overall, the biggest frog is actually bigger than the biggest toad. I was curious. I assumed that toads would have the biggest frog species, but that is not correct. I don't have a picture of the biggest frog here, but it is not a toad. It is a frog. So frogs can get really big. Here's Irene's frog from the picture she sent me. And here's just a little overview, a reminder for us all of their life cycle. So eggs are usually laid in water, and then little tadpoles hatch out of the eggs, and they swim around as tadpoles with gills. I mean, they're fish, right? For a while, and then they start developing legs. And then at some point, they lose their tail and hop out of the water and turn into frogs. So this ability of frogs that they have throughout their life cycle to breathe three ways, their lungs, through their skin, and through their mouth, is very unique and special. And something else, oh, it's interesting that that's showing up on this slide. Howla. Something else that's interesting about toads and frogs is that they can actually retract their eyes. So they can open their mouths super, super large, like so large, like way larger than they should be able to, given how small they are. And they do that by retracting their eyes. And that's going to, again, factor in when we talk about some of the myths and how they factored into myths in the world, this ability to open up their mouths really, really wide. Okay, back onto the metamorphosis theme. I just thought these pictures were beautiful. Some beautiful, I think those are toad eggs floating in a pond. And then a picture of a little tadpole with little legs just kind of poking. And some eggs that are getting closer to becoming tadpoles. It's interesting how it feels like the life cycle of frogs, it's all this like big gradient. It's not like a step function like some of the other animals. It feels like a butterfly, like is a caterpillar, and then it's, well, I guess it's goo, and then it's a butterfly. Like it's very obvious. It's there, you don't see like half caterpillar, half butterflies walking, flying around. But with frogs, it's like every variation, every different stage of the life cycle they inhabit, like with legs and a tail, with legs and swimming, with legs and a tail walking on the earth. Like anyway, so they're kind of they're kind of fun, very fluid. Okay. Oh, this is a tomato frog, and I think a glass frog with a clear body here. Frogs, they come in all amazing, beautiful colors. So we'll move into the myth section now. So all these things that we just covered in the science facts, they factor directly into how frogs are seen symbolically and in myth. So, of course, frogs transform completely. They have this incredible metamorphosis they go through. They live between worlds, so they're between water and land. They breathe three ways and they emerge when the rain comes, right? They're associated with the rainy season beginning. And so naturally, in myth, they are symbols of transformation and rebirth, right? The water coming back to the land. Symbols of liminal spaces, threshold guardians, right? They can bring us between worlds. They are symbols of fertility and abundance, for sure. And they're guardians of the unconscious dream realm, um, and with cleansing and renewal also. So, frogs bring us between paradoxes, between opposites. So, between life and death, between waking and sleep, between earth and the underworld, and my favorite, between potential and physical manifestation. So, those are overall themes with how frogs factor in worldwide in myth and toads. In general, it seems like myths will, frogs and toads are more or less interchangeable in myths. Sometimes there's specific aspects of frogs and toads that are keyed into in myth. And actually, the two stories that I shared in my email, um, the the Nixie Pond story, that one, I liked it because somebody is transformed into a frog and somebody transformed into a toad, and there was a distinction between why one was transformed into one and one the other. So I thought I appreciated that. And then the other story, was that the three feathers? I'm forgetting the title of it. In any case, look at your email. But that one, again, there's a toad prominently featured, and that there was specific reasons why it was important that that was a toad and not a frog. So. Okay, so in Egypt, there is a frog goddess named Heket, and here she is depicted. And she was the goddess of childbirth and resurrection. She was the one who watched the sun, watched the rebirth of the sun every day. So she was really connected to birth. And of course, she was connected to the flooding of the Nile and the fertility coming back to the land. In Greek and Roman traditions, frogs were loosely associated with Dionysus, so the god of transformation. And there's a play by Aristophanes called The Frogs, about a journey to the underworld. So again, frogs seen as guardians or guides between threshold times of day and thresholds between worlds. And in Mesoamerican cultures, frogs and toads were also central to the rain and fertility. The Aztec earth goddess, Tlateloltecutli, was often depicted as a toad, or a toad with kind of a formidable toad with fangs and other things. But she was one of the primary goddesses of rebirth and renewal. And also in Olmec traditions, um, there was also a frog deity that was seen to be the one um, to swallow something up as an ending and to give birth to the new beginning. So it's like this idea of actually taken from biology, where toads do swallow, they shed their skin and then they swallow it, they eat it. So it's this idea of, it's sort of like the Ouroboros with the snake swallowing its tail. In Mesoamerica, frogs and toads were seen to represent that as well, that death and rebirth renewal. And I have some pictures because I was really enjoying looking at these two deities. So the Olmec tradition is about 1,000 years earlier than the Aztec tradition. So the Olmec rebirth god is sort of the original um, incarnation of this god. And in the Olmec stories, she is, well, actually, it does not have a gender. There's no gender. And the idea is that this deity opens their mouth to devour the dead and give birth to the new life. So some of this, I think, comes from the biology, again, of frogs and toads being able to open their mouths so huge. I mean, they can really get their mouths open, and it's hard to tell in the Olmec picture, but here in the Tlatelolchicutli picture, you can see the mouth is just like fully open, as wide as the mouth can go. And so that, I believe, brought inspiration to this, like, just, this god or goddess like opening their bodies up so fully to be a part of the cycle of life and death. So you can check out some of these artworks depicting that. All right. So this, I think, is why I thought to put the frog in my pocket when I walked out the door. And I didn't know any of this. I mean, we all kind of are familiar with, toads and witches, right? Eye of newt, toe of frog, right? That, I don't know. Um, so this concept of the green crucible came up, and I think it is fascinating, especially for all of us who are involved in internal alchemy in our Qigong practice, right? We're doing all this energy work to allow our bodies to become these powerful apothecaries for us for self-healing, right? We talk about how our hearts and probably the thymus gland can produce an elixir that can cure all ills, right? Um, so this idea of the green crucible, this concept of the green crucible is applied to both toads and the healing preparations that are made from toad secretions. So the European common toad, Bufo bufo, is is the traditional witch's familiar, right? And so there is a tradition, and it's in Asia also. But I found more information about the European tradition. There is a tradition of making a mostly herbal concoction, usually with psychoactive plants that are, on the border of poisonous and deep medicine, right? And they're mixed together in special ways. So it includes henbane, belladonna, and mandrake. And then they take some of the toad secretions from those glands behind the eyes, and it doesn't hurt the toad, but this milky substance comes out if you know how to expel the secretions. And they do have a small amount of 5-HO-DMT. Now, the European toad, science says it's not enough on its own to actually do any, like, be psychoactive to humans at all. However, we know about the synergistic effects of mixing things together, mixing herbs together. This is a like pan-cultural tradition around the world to mix all different types of things together to create a substance that can induce altered states in people. So I think that was probably what was going on here with the toads. And this green salve or flying ointment, they would call it, it was something that people could rub um, on their skin, and it would induce slightly altered states for shamanic journeying, etc. And I think it's interesting that both toads and frogs that secrete psychoactive things, poisons, medicines, whatever you want to call them. So again, the concept of the green crucible is that all those compounds are created within their bodies from what they eat. So they have to eat, like the toads or the frogs eat slugs and snails that had eaten poisonous plants, for example, nightshades, right? So if the slugs and snails eat the nightshades, then the toads eat the slugs and snails, these compounds get bioaccumulated in the toad, and then the toad's body creates these psychoactive chemicals from what it eats. So in captivity, even like poison dart frogs, um, they're not poisonous because they're not eating the plants that they need to create these chemicals within the green crucible of their body. So I thought that was fascinating. There is a different toad in America. It's the Colorado River toad. And then there's also the cane toad that's more South America or native to South America now. It's a lot of places. They actually produce larger quantities of this of DMT, so it's 5-MeO DMT, and um, that actually on its own could be psychoactive in humans, but there's no evidence that the Colorado River toad was used for those purposes by our indigenous people. There are records that the Olmecs may have used cane toads for some from sacred meaning or uses, but anyway, I thought that was interesting. Also, in general, amphibians create all sorts of medicine, not just the DMT containing stuff. So in particular, frog excretions are currently being studied as to be used for pain medications, antibiotics, anti-cancer compounds, and immune modulation. So there's a lot of powerful medicine that these frogs and toads are making in their bodies from the plants that they eat. So I'll close with some information, some beautiful information of frog as a totem animal. And this is from Indigenous American traditions. In general, frogs are seen to have been able to cleanse negativity, stagnation, and stuck energy from any environment. And shamans, for example, who were versed in healing, houses or places with difficult energy, like haunted houses, were said to carry frog medicine because that was the medicine that could unstick the stuck energy, right? Their flexible, watery connection was seen to be useful in that regards. And in many Mayan and Aztec shamanic practices, and actually I've seen it in the Munaiki tradition also. So shamans will put water in their mouths and spray it over the body of a patient, and this helps to clear away negative energy. And it's important to note that this is done carrying the thought of frog in your consciousness. So holding this beautiful information from our presentation, for example, in your consciousness would help you transmit that healing and that energy of unblocking stuckness through water that you might use in ceremony. So you can keep that in mind. And this is actually pan-cultural as well. So frogs were seen to literally bring rain. So their song is seen as what harmonizes with the rhythm of Father Sky and is able to call in the rain to bring in the thunder and the water back to the earth for renewal. So, and I have actually been a part of, rain healing sessions about bringing rain to areas, and frog is always called in, which makes complete sense. So, keep that in mind if you're feeling like your land needs more nourishment and rain, you can bring in the energy of frog. And I'll close with this cute guy. It's a California tree frog. This is the tree frog I grew up with. Most of the frogs I see are this one. Hello. So I'd love to open the floor up for any, I don't know, all frog comments, frog love, anything that wants to be said about frogs.
Well, this is my Cajun frog. He's been around for a long time. Craig brought him back from New Orleans many years ago.
He is wonderful. Look at
He has a
those
fishing
eyes.
pole. He has his little fishing pole and his fish. He hung in our bathroom for years and then he broke his leg and he's been sitting on the windowsill waiting for us to fix him.
Ah. Thank you, Robin. Oh, we got some more frogs.
We invited two important guests in tonight for the presentation.
Thank you.
They normally sit outside, but we've had them in several different locations. And this is the female. You can see the bow on the ear. Very powerful.
Yeah, that's a scientific aspect I didn't bring up, that the females have bows on their. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, I didn't realize that frogs were protectors, but they absolutely are. Yeah, so makes sense to have some frogs protecting your space.
When we went to the No Kings workshop and they had a number of people dressed up as frogs, the because the demonstrators in Portland, some of them dressed up in frog costumes because the frog stands for transformation. And they wore their frog costumes in the demonstration, standing against or opposed to the ice characters in all of their masks and it was just and they danced around and they just brought a different energy to kind of a what are we doing here sort of energy. So I didn't really understand what that was about until they had the number of different people in frog costumes at ours and different kinds and talked about the transformation and the frog bringing the energy of imagining something new. So they're out helping us imagine something new in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah, that is perfect. I mean, there's so many animals that represent transformation, but frogs for this, it's perfect. It's so perfect. I mean, they're the canaries in our coal mine, right? They feel everything before anyone else. Number one. Number two, of course, the transformation aspect. And then number three, the fact their skillful skill at opening up blockages, right? Like opening up connections, like letting the water flow again, like purifying. Um, yeah, I loved that again, the shamans that are dealing with haunted spaces, right? Have frog medicine. That's what we need. We have a lot of haunted spaces. So, and then yeah, who knows? Who knows? Once everything's opened up, all these possibilities are open to us. So that's wonderful. Thank you. Another reason they showed up today, I'm sure.
I'll just share a childhood memory. I loved frogs when I was a little girl. And we don't have a lot of frogs in Alaska that I remember, but camping in the summer, we would have these little kind of stagnant water spots, and they would just collect tadpoles in them. And I wouldn't do this now, but when I was little, I would take containers and go and gather up as many tadpoles as I could. And I thought it was total magic. All of those, which it is. I mean, those images that you shared with us, going from eggs to tadpole to frog, it is magic, or it looks like magic. And I loved frogs when I was little. And I still love frogs, but thank you for sharing all of this information. I did not know about the wide mouths, but as some of you know here, I recently dreamed about a frog or toad, I'm not sure, opening its mouth extremely wide and swallowing another frog. And I didn't know there were clear frogs because the frog in my dream was also clear. And it's very powerful. There was a lot I didn't know about frogs. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth.
Well, I was the same as a little girl, and my father encouraged us. I was probably 4 when we we had a little brook that ran along the back side of where we lived. And we would go and with a bucket and we'd collect tadpoles and we'd put a little screen over it and we'd put little food in there and we'd watch the tadpoles turn into little frogs and then put them back out in the backyard near the brook. And it was just, that and growing pansies in the spring, those two things I'll never forget. I'll never forget it. And I also have a lot of images and things, puppets, and I made a ceramic frog that holds a sponge. I just have frogs around my house. So. And I have a lot of tree frogs here in the summer. And one summer, there was a tree frog that really hung out in a little space where I have this cedar fence, and so there's the hole where the horizontal slats go into the hole, and he had a little home in one of those holes. And every once in a while, I could get close enough, I could sit there and watch him do his sound and watch his whole throat like expand like 5 times bigger than he was. And it was just so delightful. And then he moved someplace else, but it was really, that was a special treat to see a tree frog so close and watch them in action. So yeah, thank you for this presentation. I learned a lot that I didn't know about frogs.
Thank you, Swan. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a frog with the throat coming out like that. I'll have to pay attention. I also collected tadpoles, so I get it. Yeah, there's a ditch at the end of the road and it would always dry up before they were quite done. And so it felt like this, okay, get them all out, put them in a fish tank. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun. It is magic.
Mm.
I'll share a couple of things actually. So one, I recently heard this, well, I don't know if it's not that recent anymore. It feels like a recent, but it's probably longer ago than I think. But we had come across this really interesting idea about the immune system. I had listened to this podcast with the Dr. Zach Bush, and he was describing the immune system in a way that I had never heard before, which is that it's like a mediator between like the outside world of the earth and the inside world of your body. And as thinking of how the frog is so like permeable, and I noticed that you said that it like there's immune modulation like research going on, like with regard to frogs. I think that's really, really fascinating. I don't know where to go else with that. It was just it was something that got stirred for me. But then another memory that I had is this is our nephew Theron. He has no fear of any creepy crawly thing whatsoever. So he's always picking up frogs and snakes and toads and I don't know, rodents, lizards. I mean everything, just
That's
everything
little
that he
and
can.
moves.
Yeah, anything that's little and moves. Yeah, and my brother Ben is absolutely. Sorry, Ben. He's not here, so but I'm gonna tell this story, which is fairly embarrassing for him, I think. We were at his or no, it was my brother Patrick's place. Well, anyway, we were all over there, and
Like for a summer barbecue.
like a summer barbecue, and my brother Ben is like really afraid of creepy crawly things. It's like the opposite of Theron. He won't touch any of that stuff. So Theron and Ben had also brought this girl that he was dating or whatever, and he was like, first date trying to impress her and stuff, and Theron like brought a frog up to Ben, and he like freaked out and like ran. He like ran, well, I don't know, maybe like 40 yards away, and then flattened himself out on the ground. He like laid on the ground, like, and then like put his hands over his head and stuff. He's like, "Oh, keep that away from me." And it was like so bizarre, and I'm like, "Why would you go lay down in the grass where he likely got that from?" But like he might find other way. Anyway, it was just so silly.
Theron, this was years ago, but Theron, whenever we hang out with him, he still remembers this story. He loved it so much. The impact of that. It was a tiny little frog.
Yeah.
The impact of that tiny little frog on. Yeah.
Not even a toad. Come on. My Ben likes to pick up toads. That's his specialty. I get a little toad. I mean, they're fine, totally fine, but they do have a little toxins. If you pick up, just don't touch your eyes, you know. But yeah, but Ben loves, he's my Ben. He's always the one when a toad comes by, he wants to pick it up, and they're cute. They're super, yeah, they're really cute and docile. So, but yeah, also be careful with what's on your hands because their skin is so permeable. So you gotta make your hands nature clean first, right? Like rub them in the dirt and the leaves first before you touch a toad or a frog, because who knows what weird, you know, lotion or something we might have on our hands. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the comic relief. You all ready for our healing session? If there are any, I mean, this is powerful medicine with frogs, right? Powerful clearing, um, powerful detoxing, powerful transformation, um, you know, opening up those really dark, stuck places, and then bringing water and nourishment in. These are all themes. So even though we'll be in the Mingjue oneness, do hold this energy of frog while we're in this healing session, because that's apparently the key, right? To transmit the powerful energy that is frog. But if there's anybody you want to put in the field too, or anything other than our country, Angie, I'm sure. Please go
I
for
want
it.
to bring in Alex and Caitlin and Bobby and I for the frog energy.
Perfect. Thank you, Angie.
I'll do Sally and Greg and Sharon.
Thank you, Robin. I'll put in Natalie. Beautiful. All other intentions and people that we want to throw in the field are there, whether we remember them in this moment or not. So I'll invite you to settle in for our Mingjue deepening, finding a comfortable seated position or laying down. And when you're ready, closing your eyes and allowing yourself to really embody that permeable skin of the frog, that openness, that ability to allow flow, no blockages. Everything is open and clear. Opening our pores, opening our bodies to all the elements, to all the consciousness fields, to all the beautiful information that we shared tonight. Opening our bodies deeply to the earth, feeling our deep connection with the earth, the soil, the waters, allowing it all to flow through us. And then opening ourselves up to the sky, allowing the nourishment of the heavens, Huanyan Qi, to flow through us. Free flow of healing energy flowing through us. No inside, no outside. Allowing ourselves to be empty, open, and clear. Bringing our attention to the center of our head. And we can gently make the end sound or hum, bringing in sound to this healing bath that we are in. Imagine the sound of frogs, the chorus of frogs. Mm, mm, mm. Continuing to make the end sound, allowing the vibration to open you up further, allowing the vibration to expand your consciousness. Our awareness expands past our bodies, past our homes, expands out, merging with our entire class, merging with the earth, merging with the universe. Mm. Mm. Connecting in with the field of elders, field of guides and teachers, field of wisdom practitioners, the field of wisdom from the earth, all of nature's wisdom. Connecting with our teacher, connecting with our deep, deep inner knowing. Mm. Mm. Now bringing our Mingjue observer back to the head inner space. Purifying the head inner space. Shu. Shu. Opening up the head inner space. Energy flows freely in the emptiness. Mingjue awareness merges with the neck, all the glands in the neck, our voice, this beautiful connection between head and heart opening. Shu. Shu. Purifying, opening, opening. Bringing our Mingjue awareness into our heart, our lungs, our breasts. Shu. Shu. Emptying, opening, purifying. Becoming translucent. Our Mingjue awareness moves down into Huanyan Palace with our organ systems. Shu. purifying, opening. Energy flows freely through our organ systems. Everything becomes translucent. Our Mingjue awareness moves into our lower pelvis, sacral center, lower dantian. Shu. Shu. Purifying, opening. Everything becomes empty, transparent. We bring our Mingjue awareness to our spine, our nervous system. Shu. Shu. Opening, clarifying, purifying. Information flows clearly in harmony through our nervous system. Bringing our Mingjue awareness down our legs. Shu. Shu. Opening, purifying, clarifying. We bring purification and opening to our entire bodies and our entire energy bodies. Shu. Shu. We are deeply connected with the Mingjue entirety field, allowing the beautiful harmonious energy to flow through our translucent form. We are Mingjue love, allowing love to permeate our form, allowing love to flow freely through us. We are Mingjue peace, allowing peace to freely flow through us, allowing peace to completely permeate us, absorbing peace through all of our pores. We are Mingjue happiness, allowing happiness to completely permeate us, flowing through us, in and out of all of our pores. We are Mingjue gratitude, allowing gratitude to flow freely through us, throughout our form, permeating every aspect of our being. No resistance, just allowing, accepting everything. And if you wish to stay in this beautiful, watery, amniotic field for longer, you may. You can simply close Zoom and float in this deep womb of transformation. Or if you're ready for renewal, to come back to the light, then I'll invite you to just begin moving your body slowly, still floating in this primal sea. Moving your body in this watery connective field. Maybe rotating the hips, maybe circling the shoulders, maybe wiggling the toes and fingers. And then gently, very gently, only when you're ready, opening your eyes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, frogs.
Thank you, Megan.
You're
Lovely.
Yes, thank you so much.
very welcome. We'll be back next week with another topic.
Bye, y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Have a beautiful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you all soon. Happy hopping. All right. Bye, everyone.